Episode 9 Wargames. Nagzz looked around the grassplane he found himself in, still completely and utterly bamboozled at the turn of events. Taking a deep breath of fresh air, he coughed. After all, living in New York all his life has made him almost allergic to clean air. He looked around once again, noticing something odd in the distance. He squinted his ancient eyes, allowing him to only just make out a huge cloud of dust approaching rapidly. Staring for a while, he managed to make out a large group of angry horned men and women, wearing armor and holding various weapons. I just can't get a break, can I? Nagzz sighed, watching them with a lifeless look in his eyes as he accepted his inevitable doom. To his surprise, the Onis just surrounded him, yelling their war cries and trying to goad the old man into a fight. After almost an entire hour of yelling and insulting the poor man, they finally realized that, to their disappointment, Nagzz was already on the verge of losing his sanity to the crazy machinations of this so-called author. Losing their enthusiasm, they started glancing at each other, and eventually stopped their yelling. Apart from Steve. But Steve's an asshole. They placed their hands together and prayed to Nagzz's dying sanity. Once that was done, one of them picked him up and they carried him to their war camp.
Warlord!
An Oni appearing to be the small army's leader yelled, as they carried Nagzz to the biggest tent in the camp.
We found this poor soul out here. He looks so pitiful, I thought he'd make the perfect mascot.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Does he have a good bark?
A familiar voice asked. As she exited the tent, the first thing Nagzz noticed was her mummy milkers. Beautiful, he thought. Then he finally realized that the woman that exited the tent, carrying a huge papier-mâché axe-like scythe thing with a bizarrely realistic tongue, was his friend Onigiri.
Nagzz, there you are. Have you come to be our mascot?
She asked.
You'd have to bark for us, though.
Giri? Nagzz replied, finally breaking through his despair.
Oh, wow. Looks like you've had a rough time here.
She consoled. I must be going crazy. Giri doesn't sound cringe.
What the fuck, Nagzz? I'm trying to be nice.
She complained at him.
If it was anyone but you, I might get a little excited.
Oh, there she is. After insulting his friend, Nagzz suddenly felt a little better. So I guess you've achieved your goal and will go home anytime now like everybody else.
Well, yes, but this is far too much fun to just head home. These boys and girls actually let me be the warlord I was born to be, unlike my stinky chat.
She explained. Out of the crowd of Onis popped a horned woman with two balloons so full of air they looked like a strong wind would cause her to fly off under her shirt. She casually strode out to Giri and immediately got onto all fours before her. She announced.
Oh, thanks.
Giri replied, dropping onto the woman's back. The woman shouted, trembling with delight and breathing heavily. Sin? Really?
Oh, Nagzz, I've reached my peak. I want to do his chair.
He panted, drooling as he spoke.
Hey, chairs don't speak.
Giri complained, dropping her weapon on Sin's leg.
Thank you.
Anyway, as I was saying,
You're just gonna continue after that?
Attention is just what Sin wants.
You're not wrong. Nagzz nodded in agreement.
Anyway, yeah, I had to unite this island of Ep9, which was loads of fun, if a bit easy for such a tactical genius as I.
Giri bragged, making the crowd of Oni look towards the biggest and most imposing Oni that stood behind her in confusion. In response, this Oni rolled his eyes and waved his hand in dismissal.
But Onibro was the one that told us what to do. You just ran in there and started taking out our enemies.
One of the Onis complained.
I don't remember any of that, Steve. Maybe you need to be reminded of what actually happened.
Giri warned.
You know what? I've been bored since there's been no one to fight. So, how about it, Nagzz? You versus me in a war game. I'll get Onibro to divide us up so it's fair.
Why should I?
Pussy!
Steve called out from the crowd.
Alright, fine, I'll do it.
That settles it. I'll see you on the battlefield tomorrow morning.
Giri declared, disappearing into a tent. Once she did, the huge, imposing, bulging-muscled Giga Chad Oni approached Nagzz.
So, I know Giri said she did all that, but in truth, I just let her go crazy while handling the real tactics.
Onibro explained.
I mean, that's just a given,
Nagzz replied.
I have spoken to her before. Remember the blue fridge incident?
He laughed with Onibro.
Yeah, at that point I was like, are we really related?
Onibro mocked.
Anyways, I'll make sure you have a chance in this, but she is my sister, so I can't let you just win, so be prepared to bring your Prof G.
Got it.
Oh, let me take you to Sin's tent. You can sleep there for the night.
I have to share a tent with Sin? Please, Onibro, anything but that. I literally do anything.
Oh, don't worry. He'll be outside. I'll just tell him Giri asked for him to become a carpet outside her tent.
Oh, thank God.
The next morning came quickly, and Nagzz was guided to a large, flat field. Once there, he met his 60-strong Oni army and promptly lined them up in a straight line. Yes, it's Nagzz. Of course, he has no idea how to set up a decent formation. A huge drum sang out across the field, being beaten by what sounded like a quickly weakening old man. Facing off Nagzz's tiny army was Giri and Sin. Giri stared at them excitedly, almost bouncing as she stood. Sin, however, just stared at Giri, waiting eagerly for some sort of abusive order.
Begin.
Onibro yelled from somewhere to the left of the field. Immediately, Nagzz's army and Giri sprung at each other. Sin jogged. Ran. I think. Towards Nagzz, a look of determination on his face. Giri and the army met. Giri's huge weapon smacked 3 Oni into the air with impossible speed, enough to make the others in the army slow their approach. After the army had finally surrounded Giri, with at least 5 other losses, Sin finally reached Nagzz, and their battle began.
Sorry, Nagzz. My Uchi's ordered a final.
Sin pulled out a butter knife, pointing it towards Nagzz. In response, Nagzz called forth Futa Slayer, and drawed the katana with surprising grace. Their battle began fiercely. Nagzz used the length of his katana to strike first, however his blow was easily redirected as Sin stepped into range. Sin's strike caught Nagzz off guard, forcing him to twist out the butter knife's stab and forcing him off balance. Using his advantage, Sin shoulder barged Nagzz to the ground. Standing above him, Sin prepared his final blow. Just before he struck, an alarm sounded, and Sin was enveloped in light.
What time is it?
Sin asked, ashen-faced and panicking. Nagzz looked toward the sun, using his ancient knowledge to determine the time.
Looks like it's 4 p.m.
No.
Sin disappeared, screaming as he did.
Huh. So that's how it happens.
Nagzz voiced his thoughts. He stood up, looking over to see his small army almost decimated, and a slightly tired-looking Giri. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, only to be enveloped in light for a second time.
Wait, no, not me too. I don't want to be pegged.
Written and narrated by Some Crow. Another huge thank you to my voice actors. PacMax42, who played Onibro. Super Saiyan 90, who played the Oni mobs. And Nelly, who played Onigiri. Absolutely blessed to have people in the community that are willing to sacrifice their voices for the sake of this delightful project of mine.
Okay, then maybe I am scaly.